This conference will now be recorded.
So in the FRD or FRS, we prepare once we understand from the client what their business problems are. Once we clearly understand the business problem, we try to resolve their business problem, or we try to come proposing them a business solution by preparing a functional requirement document where we are saying, okay, once you create this application, this is how it is going to function. Okay, so this is how it is going to function. So that's why we prepare FRD. So again, as I told, all of the document that we are working and preparing might be just little different when you join a project, because the templates might be different, but the context of making all this document is remain same. You have to write the project name, and every project comes with a version, like what version of the project. So normally we do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, all this version in the beginning, but when we kind of like submit the final version, so that becomes like generally 1.0 or 2.0. Those are like major version. 0.1, 0.3 are like normally your minor versions, which is like you prepare internally, and then like you do your major version when you submit this to your stakeholder. When it is a shareable document which is ready, you can share with your stakeholders, then you give version 1.0. So you give her like this table. These tables are called table of history, where we maintain like how we have prepared the document, who's the owner of the document, because every document that we prepare, there is an owner of it. Owner meaning there is somebody who has prepared and taken the accountability, meaning anything wrong, right? Like we can reach out to that person and he will kind of like manage like what is wrong and right on this. Okay, so that's like the ownership. So the project name started here. It's a Ranford. Ranford is a bank. Bank, they've given an overview. Maybe they went to a customer who wanted to, it's a banking customer, and that customer wanted to develop an application which might like solve their banking issue, meaning they might be a physical bank now, and they just wanted to make sure they have an online portal, because if you know yourself, right? So every bank which is like an on bank right now runs, they also have an online banking, because these days customer do not want to just go for everything to the physical banks. They wanted to have online banking where they can resolve most of the transfer issues, or any kind of like adding beneficiaries, right? Transferring, tracking payment, and all these are like generally done like by online banking, right? So if a bank do not have an account, or do not have an online presence, they are likely to lose customer. Okay, so that's why they proposed a functional requirement document to create a banking platform. Now for this banking platform, they have given a home page. So the first solution is they are suggesting a home page where they will have different type of users, right? So there can be individual customer, there are corporate customer, and individual or international customers. International meaning who you transfer between the countries, like you are in US, and if you are transferring the money to India, or you are in UK, you are transferring the money to India. So those are like mostly your transferable accounts. So those are like the users who can access it online, and they can like they can create a login and access the application and provide or take different information on different type of services available. Okay, so different type of services available. So what is that in homepage? They have created a screen. So if you're telling your client that like, okay, we are going to create an homepage, right? So if you are going to create an homepage, then like, how are we going to tell? Then we are showing them how the homepage will tentatively look. So before even the developer creates the page, we are creating a mock-up of the homepage and sending the client and saying, okay, this is how your page is going to look. If they want, like, if they wanted to say, no, I don't like this page design, I do not want login this side, I want login right side, I want like the page colors should be like this. So we take some input to create this, but if they do not like, it is early, it is not like will take a lot of rework, meaning if you actually give this work to developer and they're developing already, and while developing, after developing, you went and showed this to the customer and the customer do not like it, it's a lot of rework, meaning you have to work that again, you have to create that again. But to minimize the amount of rework, we wanted to first create a mock, which is we call wireframe or screen design diagram. And once that works, then like we are going to show and take the final input from the customer, and whatever they don't like, we will change and we will create a new mock-up with the changes. And once we submit, once the mock-ups are approved, we know like how this project is going to be built up and what is that we are bringing, how what we are adding. So that way we are reducing the cost of the project by not actually creating the project, but creating mock-up or screen design diagram and taking the changes on the mock-up. So we reduce the actual time taken to create it. Is that cool? Anybody has questions?
So this designing the page, this is only the BA will do, or who will be like who will have the meetings and do these things
It
like
is the
designing?
responsibility of a business analyst to go to the stakeholder, collect information, and create this one. And after creating, he can like show this as a final document to the project manager.
Of his own company, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Before showing to the client. Okay.
yeah. Okay. So this is the wireframe. So what are the web elements? So if you are creating a web page, every element that is appearing on the page is called web element. There are different types of web element, like you have buttons, you have like drop down boxes, which is like you kind of click on, there is a drop down and you select an option from there. There are like radio buttons, right? So do you guys know like web element? I think you should and must know web elements when you are working for web applications. So you have links, you have paragraphs, headings, bullet, region, images, and then like you have different kind of web elements. I know if you have a list. Elements of the design. Sorry for this. Color. I think if I get that document, I'll share. But I think it is mostly you. Anyways, you come across like it is a text box. Text box meaning which can take input or text. So those are like text boxes, right? If it's a list box, meaning list of item is coming on a list box. Button meaning which is clickable. Once you click, it takes to another location. That those are like buttons. Okay, so these are the elements we are using. If you check here, this is the page. If you check, why can't I increase the size? Yeah. So here, home, personal banking, corporate banking, international banking, about us are like clickable options. If you click, they have their own pages, right? So, those are like buttons. If you see select a branch, those are drop down. You can select a branch name from the drop down option. So that's a drop down. If you click on link login is a link. If you click, it takes to like it takes to another page, right? So These are like different web elements. So give it a minute, read like what are the different web elements, and they are saying element name, they are telling element type, user action. So if you are clicking, it's a button clicking. Selecting a drop down, it's a select as an action. Okay. And then system response, they are created how the system will react if the user clicks on it, how the system is going to react. So tell me if you have any question on this one. No question? Okay, perfect.
I have a question. The flow diagram is the picture that's above, like the one that we created in the last class?
No, that's not a flow diagram. That's called mock-up. You created designs like this, screens like this. Those are called mock-ups or wireframe. Flow diagram, I'm just going to show you just now. Flow
Okay.
diagrams is what we are going to create tomorrow. So these are flow diagrams. Can you see, as a user, you enter the URL, then your system homepage will display. Then like you get 4 buttons. If you click as an action, then system will take you. This is flow diagram. It gives you a flow of execution.
Okay.
So the one which we did, that is called the wireframe, you said, is it? Wireframe?
Yes, that's called wireframe or mockups.
Okay.
Okay, and just to double check, we're going to be creating this FRD based on the same the grocery items, right? We're not going to be
Yeah,
doing
no, this is an example, but you are going to create on your problem statement, which is like for the grocery thing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is like wireframe. So each of this, like if they say like as per the task flow diagram, each of this, if the user clicks on home button, what will happen? They have created a flow diagram. If like the user clicks on the personal banking, what will happen? They have created a flow diagram. If the user clicks on corporate banking, what will happen? They have created a flow diagram.
So each action we need to have one flow diagram.
Yes, each action we need to create one flow diagram. Yeah. So this is how the flow diagram. That's why I sent you the document. And in that, whatever fields are mandatory, if a user wants to log in to the application, so it is mandatory to have a username and password. No user can get into the application without not having any password or username. So that's a mandatory thing. So you need to mention, because when the developer develop, they should develop in certain way that they mandate the user. So otherwise they will add error message. So so they have to mandate like what is that necessary. Okay. What is that necessary for me to enter minimum? If I do not enter, what kind of error message? So username and password, the element type is username and a password. It's a mandatory. Validate data is like a mandatory data. If you do not enter right username, or if you leave it blank, then what kind of like error the user should see? Okay, what kind of error the user can see is like mentioned on the error state. Error state meaning if you do not enter things right, what kind of error message is expected, like you to get. Okay, so it says like error state is blank or / invalid, which says enter a valid username. If you have entered invalid, then it will say, if it is either left blank or if it is invalid, both it says like enter a valid username for both the cases. Yeah. And if the user login failed, then the system should display a pop-up. It says pop-up meaning, do you understand what is pop-up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rest of guys pop up, right? So it is like you have a screen and small window appears in the center and says like, oh, this is invalid. So it says like the customer wanted a pop-up. He doesn't want just like in the screen, but he want in the pop-up. So you have to design in a way that you have a pop-up coming up. And so you have to make a mock-up or a wireframe where like you have a pop-up coming up and you are showing like enter valid password or enter valid username. Okay, now what's the task flow diagram? If a visitor, so it's a user type. So what are the different type of user might use your application? That also you need to think as a business analyst. Any application would have a number of user type who's going to use that application. So what type of user are going to use this application? So as a visitor who doesn't have an account with the bank, meaning he's not a customer of the bank yet. He's the first time visitor or the visitor of the bank. Okay, so it means that he doesn't have a login because he's not a customer yet. So that if he enters the valid URL, right, so it is going to land him to the home page of the Ranford Bank, and he sees the options, like he sees an option like home, personal banking, corporate banking, international banking, and about us, and it all operates on a click operation. Okay, there are other buttons also because it wasn't like sufficient space enough for them to like put the buttons in here. So what they said, like they write a C, meaning continued. Okay, so if your screen size is not enough to capture all the information in the single screen, right, like you put a C here and you can continue here. From C they continued here. Okay, so it's called continuations. So from C you can see other, so they have other buttons also available, like they have customer service, international bank, FAQs, right, terms and condition, privacies and disclaimer, and sitemap. This comes in their footer. If you see, these are the links which also, like if a user clicks, it will redirect them to another location. So it should be all different pages it is taking. So those also operates on the click operations, right? If you click on that, what is going to take, right? Which page it is going to take? Okay, so then like you have administrator. If a admin, every portal, if ever whatever live portal you are seeing in the whole world, every portal has an admin role, somebody who manages this application. This does not get managed by itself, right? So you have a human being in the back end who looks into this portal, takes care of the portal, any day-to-day changes, modification, edit, delete, all these operations are done by like the admin role. So if an admin gets into the portal, what does he does? He gets into the portal, he enters the URL. Because admin, he need to take care of like the back end thing, like what's going on with the portal, how it is operating, what need changes and everything. So he need to enter to the portal to make certain changes. So he enters the valid username and password, logs in, and there is a whole different dashboard for him, or a screen where he can see what's working, what's not working, where there are issues, and he can get in directly there to fix things up. If you have either a personal bank or corporate bank or international banking customer, what would they do? So they get into the URL, they'll put the URL, they'll land onto the home page, and they see an option personal, corporate, or international. Either like any of these you are, right? If you are a personal banker, you click and get to the system login page of personal banking, which will again ask you an username and password. And then like if you are a corporate bank, you just click on corporate, it does ask you like username and password. And then if you're international, it does ask you like username and password, and then like you get into the relative pages there. But if you're a bank employee, because you also would have a user as a bank employee who would get to this portal, because bank employees need to also, if you go to the any banks, right, you pop up to any bank, you have like customer relationship officers, you have like different windows where they take your request for different kinds of processing of information, either withdrawal or transactions or transfer or like any checks. So those are done by bank employees. So bank employees also obviously will have access to the portal. So how many types of user did we speak so far? Anyone?
Personal, corporate, international.
Is it only two type of customer? How many types of user we spoke so far?
Three. Three well.
Sorry?
Yes.
Well, personal, corporate,
Personal.
international.
Mhm. Okay, next. Corporate, personal, international, and
the business method of marketing.
oh God. I don't know, like Shri, like where you take the calls, but there are heavy background noise. It is very difficult to manage with that background noise. But anyways, anybody else? He said three type of users already. What are the different users for the portal?
Admin, new user.
Okay. New user. What does new user mean? There is a new
Uh,
user and old user.
New user in the sense who is, I mean, the new customer, sorry, new customer and who is already in there. Two types there. Already who have the bank account, that is the that one, and one is the new customer, like who wants to check.
New customer is already a customer. First time you log in, is there different when you, let's say you have a Bank of America, which bank do you operate, Pratima?
Bank of America.
Okay, Bank of America, first time you logged into your application, second time you logged in, third time, did anything change for you?
No.
Then you are new user for the first time. Second time you are not new user. Did anything change?
No, what I'm trying to say is how many types of customer you are saying, right? How many types
Yeah,
of
yeah, that's a customer, but it's not a new customer. There is no different role for a new
oh,
customer.
okay.
So far we talked about admin as a role. We talked about like a visitor who do not have an account as a role. We talked about bank employee as a role. 3. Then we have corporate customers, international customer, and personal. So 6 different type of users in this application. So for the e-commerce that you guys are designing, you need to think how many types of customer. Okay. So that's like different customer. Each customer, what would they go and what would they do? It is like, and remember we created use cases.
Yeah, for the
Um,
Google. Yeah.
yeah, we created use cases. Similarly, you have to create use cases for different type of operation for this e-commerce application which you guys are working, right? So for an example, one of the use case can be, for an example, if the customer is buying one product, he bought one product 2 times and another product 5 times. So which one will it appear in the buy now option? Okay, which one will it appear in the buy now option? And if a customer has bought one application, sorry, he has bought a product 5 times, right? He buys it like 5 times, but he decides to discontinue. He doesn't want to buy it, or he doesn't want to see it under buy again option. What are you giving your user for him to deselect something that he doesn't want to buy again? So I was buying, let's say for an example, let's say I was buying Pantene shampoo, right? 5 times I bought and I realized it's not working out for me. I have heavy hair fall. So those, because I have bought 5 times, will you show me in buy now option? Or like if I see it, can I choose, no, I don't want to continue with Pantene now. I wanted to go with, like, let's say Head and Shoulder. So so for a customer, though he has bought 5 times, doesn't mean that he wanted to see that product under the buy now list. So how are you giving your option to your customer to remove anything under your buy again list? That is a one use case. How are you telling your customer, are you giving discount if I'm buying every product like that same product for last 10 months. So are you showing any specific discounts for me? If you wanted to discount because I'm a regular customer, because I've subscribed to that product, how do you give me a discount? So all those cases you have to think what is possible. As a user, this is possible, this is also possible, and this is also possible. So for all of the possible areas, you need to create use cases. Okay, and you need to add all these use cases here. And this is like the second bank. So as an admin, he logs, he gets like one admin logs. So each of the user, you need to create different screen, because if he logs in for an admin, how does this look? For an corporate user, how the screen will look? For a regular user, how the screen will look? So you have to think and come up with the screen design ideas, and then put a sample that and show like customer that, okay, do you think this should look for a visitor? This should look good for an first time customer. So all this you need to check and work. So each of the screen also has different buttons, and for every screen design or mockups that you have created, you need to come up with like elements and element type and what user action needed. Okay, each of the element type and user action needed. And every time if the user enters, what he sees, so need to create a flow diagram. Tomorrow I will show you how to create a flow diagram, but yes, you need to start working on FRD. Slowly we'll complete it. Okay, only other than flow diagram, rest all you can do it, continue. Only flow diagram I'll show you tomorrow. Okay, so all the element type for each page, each mockup you are creating, now you created one mockup for yourself or more than one mockup, 2-3 screens. Each screen, what buttons you have, what elements do you have, what they can see, what they cannot see, if they, what is mandatory, what is like they, if they do not enter, what kind of like error message would they get. All of that information you have to create a tabular format like this and capture like this. And for each of this flow, you need to create a flow diagram, which we'll see tomorrow. Okay. And in this case, if you are doing anything input validation, meaning what a customer can give as an input to the text boxes. Every time you have a box where you are expecting your user to provide an input, then what type of input you should take. So it should be like branch name. So it is like alphanumeric. So what can be alphabet and what is like numeric? It is alphanumeric. And it's like minimum of 6 character and maximum of 40 characters. They do not want to allow anything after 40. So invalid range, if somebody does less than 6 or more than 40, this message come. If somebody enters a duplicate branch name, then he will say it already exists. If he enters invalid alphabet type, meaning wrong input, it says this field should alphanumeric start with an alphabet only. If you leave it blank, then this error message should come. You think from your perspective what error messages is right to show if an user inputs wrong messages, and start building this one. For each of the time when you have an input, you need to create and build this. Flow diagrams, anyways, we are talking tomorrow, so I'll capture that tomorrow. Can you start working on this much for each screen you have created? What is the input type? What kind of like action that takes, and use cases can you create and add to your FRD document. Create a fresh Word document, use the same tabular formats, start designing from the beginning. Okay, can I ask you guys to do that tomorrow?
Yes, till now we have done only one screen till now, right? So for that we have to do the FRD, correct?
For now, yeah, that is like you are making a change. So for that, like, can you create use cases? Can you create the tabular format to give this input validation and error states?
Correct. Yes. And I have one question. It's not related to this class. I got a mail saying Agile certification courses. I just want to check like how it is going to help me and what is this? Can you just tell me? I